Hey, boys and girls, you can evolve anytime you want in this eternal conscious torment. Just ask the Supreme Court. Today on Secondhand Noobs. So what you have to do individually and microscopically in your mind, which is the all mind, the nous, use it, compartmentalize it, grow, learn to understand. That's 4D, learning to understand. One poet said, if they tell you what they are the first time, believe them. Well, easier said than done, because you got to be able to process information from the desert files, or you're going to be put in a desert bind, because you're lost back there in the telegraph generation. We communicate right here, right now. And this is a great concept. If you go all the way back, say 1500 BCE, whoo, baby, 2000, 3000 BCE, dude, eternal conscious torment. And lots of mosquitoes, dude. Lots of mosquitoes. And it happens every year. Can you imagine the malaria? Not pretty. Not pretty. So what do they use? They use snake toxins. Yeah, baby. I heard it from a doctor. What can I say? That's where we take this stuff. But you can analyze it from way far back. But you have to bring it forward. You have to bring it into today. Does it apply? Is there any eternal conscious torment in that seed? And you can analyze that and say, well, that ain't working for me, so I'm going to apply my discipline to that rub. You see what I mean? You got to have the opposing view before you can understand your own view. That's the rub. And it happens. This is a good one here. When I first went back and started analyzing, my Buddha 101 thing, one of the most interesting concepts I found early on was that, concepts are really great. And the thing about concepts is they change 3,000 times a second. I thought that was pretty good for 2,500 years ago. And I bought in. I say, well, string theory. So string theory, you throw string theory in there and it works. And now, where are you? 2023? 2112? Don't get me started. Don't get me started. So then, the thing becomes, you have to unravel this mess. You can go all the way back to Alexander the Great, ATG, the big guy, Alexandria, Egypt. That's where I got my start. The ship I was on when I was in the Navy, the USS Saratoga, CV-60, we went on a trip to Alexandria. I was impressed, even though it was a little old and tattered. Gold doesn't tarnish. Ask King Tut. And that's what I'm saying, is you can put that in any compartment you want to. My particular love is that whole string of events that happened from around 5000 BCE to present. And that's the Desert Files because it's over. And I try to stress to people who might want to listen to Secondhand Noobs that that's just how easy a discipline is when you compartmentalize the past, the present, and the future. And it has to be a broad stroke. It has to be cosmic. That's why we call it the macrocosm of the one infinite. Because I don't know, because I go back to the Greeks and they say once you reify, once you name that thing, it's no longer that thing because it has infinite intelligence and told you to think the thing. I think that's pretty cool for 2,300 years ago. But we've grown since then. One of the things I left on the floor the last broadcast was my discussion I had with myself about C.G. Jung and individuation. See, that is a seed. You have to plant that in your head. Everything outside of your egg, your seed, is a perception, and those are the things you want to analyze in your meditation, in your zoom in your zoom out. Do you see it? That's what it means for those with eyes to see. The thing is, your eyes are shut. That's why you go to the King James and hit Matthew 6:22 and beyond, because that's the rub. Once you understand that little thing, that little cornerstone, which is hidden, you know what I mean? And they just start expanding. That's why I'm a fan of Anaxagoras, seeds, and nous. Seeds are one, the formation of the matrix. The four is the understanding. Now, what you have to go through in the process is growth, which we'll call the high priestess. And then you have to get into that 3D thing, which is a catalyst. And all that assaults the senses is catalyst. And you learn through that catalyst. And you gain experience in that catalyst. And then that becomes perfected. At least in that 1/3000th of a second that you had to work with it in the reality of the string theory. You gotta have fun with it. Toys in the attic. Thanks, guys. Toys. 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 In the attic. Toys. 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 In the attic. So there you go. And what did my teachers teach me about the toys in the attic? Is that you just have to blunder on. Keep on keeping on. And then at some point you'll realize that you're into the blues. See how that works? See, the blues, that's 5D. That's discernment, intelligence. That's what the big hidden thing was for all of us guys and gals that started listening to Elvis Presley and the Crew. You know what I mean? We're throwing out this philosophy of energy and action. And what did that seed turn into? The 60s. And I love the way people who were there in the 60s explain the 60s. If you remember it, you weren't there. Well, for me, what? 1968, I was 11 years old. So that's just where my world was. First grade, the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Vietnam. It's not been pretty. And so I wanted to set out, in an imaginative sense, a noose kind of sense, to explore why. What a concept. Isn't that what we do? On a day-to-day, hour-to-hour, second-to-second. See where it goes? That's how we keep the cycle rolling. But once you come to the end of the cycle, then it's a matter of recognition. And that requires intelligence. And that's why we appreciate our ancestors back there in the desert files. Because we can pull up that bind, analyze that bind, and try to get out of that bind. And that's when you know the blues. But that's not it. It's in the works. What I think these guys were doing, and this goes back all the way to the beginning, you know, the first lyre, and I mean that as a string on a turtle shell kind of lyre. See, you're safe, right? Up there in the Supreme Court. I'm talking about a string. Somehow it works out. But it's an allowance, see? I mean, that's the whole point. Remember back when you were a little kid and you would do what your parents said, clean your room, do the dishes for an allowance? I will give this to you if you do this for me. That's the rub. If, then, therefore. Basic logic. Very simplistic. But it all works on a very simplistic level. If you choose to leave it there, because you can expand upon that allowance as you grow, as you start to introduce yourself to the high priestess. And then you've got the empress. See, that's 3D. That's the catalyst, is the empress. So she's got to be a pretty smart person, right? She made it all the way to experience 4D. And then you move on up and apply that, and you reach the emperor level. See, and this is all old stuff in which they allowed themselves to be illuminated by. And the one thing they came up with was, it's illusory. You see what I mean? In your mind, it doesn't move, but the thinking, the thoughts do. And the more you allow those thoughts, the more pragmatic you become, because you realize that's what they're talking about when you talk about the one thought, the one distortion, the one toy turns into the many toys. So you have to slow that down and allow that analysis to take place. And that's understanding the toys in the attic. It's in the works. Just to make a quick point here, which is kind of fun and imaginary. It's the Jer Noobs files, you know what I mean? Is you think the Supreme Court is big, right? Authoritative? Very disciplined? Apparently not. But hey, we'll have to work through it because it's we the people. We the people. And that's the one thing I wanted to examine during the process of all of those people on that extreme right wing that we hear about all the time, and how socialist I am. Dude, everybody's a socialist that stands on the left of you. And that pile is getting smaller, and that's why you have to yell louder. You have to shake the trees. See, we know this. And what falls out of those trees? I wonder. See, dude, we know. That's in the script. We've observed that, and we have allowed that. But there's no reform, right? Because power corrupts totally. You heard that one before? That's like first grade stuff. You see what I'm saying? And we know this as Democrats and independent Democrats. We have 95% of every mind in every country on this planet. It's not socialism. It's a toilet. It's not socialism. It's water pipes. You see what I'm saying? That's the point. Don't be telling me what I am. I'll tell me what I am. And I do fine right down the middle of the road, and I'll pick any fruit that I want to on the left or on the right. And I'll make that determination. I'll make that allowance. You allow yourself to grow. And once you grow, you become more active, because that's what growth energy is. Now you have to focus it. Okay? What are we going to focus it on? I'm going to focus it on people telling me what they think I am, in which is totally inaccurate, because these people do not even know what socialism is. So I'll give a quick example into the lunacy of that thought. Okay, you own a McDonald's, very profitable McDonald's. And if you're a socialist, you're going to take every nickel of that profit that you have, and you're going to give it to the government. Now, how many people in their right mind in America is going to do that? See, so the argument they're projecting upon the ignorance of people on that extreme measure is that, hey, science bad, but don't call me on your cell phone. You know? You see what I'm saying? You've got to recognize that that's the level that we're working with here. You can't talk past them. You have to shake hands with them. You have to explain to them what our position is. No, we want what's best for you and me. And that's a rub. So that's why the United States of America exists in this 1/3000th of a second. That seems to be infinite. So why not grow along? And it's in the works.